G'day guys, Jackson Millan, the Wealth Mentor. Hope you're doing well. I am currently in the back of the Troopy. We just had our first big tropical storm last night, which was very wet, and now there's a lot of ducks outside, which is very exciting. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions lately around whether people should be investing in active managed funds or index managed funds, or whether they should be stock picking themselves. It's a really interesting question. I find that I get a lot of these questions as we've had great market performance. People are hearing more about the stock market doing extremely well, the property market doing extremely well, and people are getting FOMO, fear of missing out, and they're wanting to dive into the investment bandwagon. The big question I get is, well, Jackson, which way should I be investing? Should I be picking stocks myself? Should I be investing in active managed funds or mutual funds? Or should I be using something called an index fund or a passive investment? What's the best way to go? So let me run you through some stats. Now, stat number one. Stock picking. If you don't have experience in stock picking, if you don't understand what you're doing, and you don't have a due diligence process for picking stocks, then you are gambling. You may as well just take your money, slide it into the poker machine at the local RSL or at the casino, because the reality is you're just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard and seeing what sticks. The big issue here is that even the best fund managers in the world don't necessarily know exactly what stocks are going to do, because the fundamentals or the intrinsic research that goes into understanding what a company is worth and what happens with the stock price can be two completely very separate things. So it's really important to understand that if you don't know what you're doing, you're guessing, then you are gambling. So let's say that you've scrapped doing stock picking off the table and you want to go with an active fund manager. Now, what does an active fund manager do? An active fund manager goes through this research approach. They research companies and they try and pick a portfolio of maybe 20 or 30 that they believe are going to outperform the market on an average. They're the ones that they feel have the best growth potential to outperform the market. And what is the market? Well, the market is basically whatever that stock market is, all of the companies that exist in that stock market, they want to do better on average than all of those companies perform. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to find companies that they believe have better growth characteristics because of the way that the company is positioned, their future projects, their current profitability or performance. All of these things go into valuing a stock. And then the third way is index investing, where we just invest in the market on average, which basically means that some of the companies are going to do really well, some are going to probably do pretty shit, some are going to do average, but we get the average of how all of those companies do. So let's say, for example, if you're investing in the US market, we might invest in the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the US. Out of those 500 companies, they're going to do okay, right? If we look at them overall on average. So index investing is a passive approach, and ultimately it doesn't require on bias or research in order to get whatever the market does. Now, here's the scary statistic. There is a report that's done every year called the SPIVA report, S-P-I-V-A. You can Google it. And what it ultimately does is it compares active funds to index funds to see how many active funds are actually being able to outperform, and it's pretty scary. On average, around the world, 80% of active funds underperform the index after fees and taxes, because their guess is as good as ours sometimes. And once again, just because you've done all the research and you've got all the experience in the world doesn't necessarily mean that the companies that you invest in are going to outperform. And the main reason for this is because an active fund is very expensive in comparison to an index fund. An index fund might cost you 0.2% of your money that you invest, compared to an active fund that might charge you between 1 and 2% per year to manage your money. That active fund needs to outperform by their fee in order to just break even. And this can be very difficult over a long period of time. So for this reason, my personal preference is to invest in index-based investments. Unless you are really good at stock picking and you want to make that a career, it's best just to get the average of whatever the market does, because that's often good enough. What we see by many active managers or people who invest in active managers is that they're overpaying for underperformance, which is not ideal. And what this leads me to is that getting money into the market is what really matters the most. So an index-based strategy means that you don't have to worry about stock picking. You don't have to worry about finding the best active manager. It essentially guarantees that you're going to get whatever the market does on average. And what you can then focus on is getting money into the market, because it is not timing the market that counts. It is time in the market that counts. So if you want some help putting together an investment strategy, what we call our investment operating system that can help you automate your investment strategy and manage your finances in 30 minutes a month or less, hit me up in the DMs with the word manage. Let's have a conversation around your current investment strategy, kick the tires on what you're doing, see if we can add some extra layers to it and help you smash it out of the park in 2020 and beyond. We've got a new financial year coming up, so it's a great time to ramp up your investments and start kicking some serious financial goals. Hit me up in the DMs. Let's chat. We'll speak to you soon.